Here's a little bit more ambitious hike Dale and I made to the top of 10,000 foot high Mount Baldy. To begin the hike, we had to take the ski lift up to Baldy Notch. The ski lift is kept running during the summer on weekends for sightseers and for hikers and bikers. There are a number of trails that begin from Baldy Notch, including the 3.2 miles to the top of Mount Baldy, whose official name is Mount San Antonio. And so we begin our trek out of Baldy Notch, which you can see here in the background. The start of the hike is a fairly steep service road, but then it begins to level off a little bit and continues on up towards Mount Baldy. And we begin to get some pretty nice views of the surrounding countryside. The trail sort of wanders along the side of the hills until we reach what is known as the Devil's Backbone. This part of the trail just follows a narrow ridge line heading up towards Baldy. And again, we're treated to some pretty nice views of the surrounding mountains. And the trail still clings on to the sides of the hills, in places getting a little bit narrow, but still quite negotiable. And then the top of Mount Baldy comes into view. Then we have a chance to pan across and take a look at why this area is called Baldy. And then Dale stops for a minute to admire the view. And even though it's the middle of July, we do find some snow. And of course I had to have my picture taken standing on it to prove I was there. And then the final assault to get on up to the top. There isn't any single trail to climb on up there. You just have to scramble up as best you can. And then the payoff, the top of Mount Baldy. The flag isn't ours, but put there by someone before. On the summit is this rather weather-beaten plaque showing where we are. And then a picture of Dale and me, taken by a fellow hiker. And speaking of fellow hikers, as you can see, we are not alone. And from the peak we can look around at the surrounding countryside. As you can see, there really was an army of hikers up there, including Dale, there on the right. And from the main Mount Baldy, we can look over and see slightly lower West Baldy. We decided to take a short side trip over towards West Baldy. Went part way and then decided to come on back up to the main peak. And on the way ran into these fellows trying to set up a tent on the snow. They said they were practicing for a trip planned for Mount Whitney. And before starting back down, a picture of the King of the Hill. And then one last look at the view from the top. and the trip back along the south flank of Mount Harwood, heading for the Devil's Backbone. And again a look down San Antonio Canyon. And then finally we spot Baldy Notch, where we take the ski lift back down to the car. After a hike of about 6.5 miles with an elevation gain of about 2,300 feet.